AAA is one of those nebulous terms that means something different to everybody who says it. But the agreed upon stuff is that it's a major publisher game with a high development cost and a huge marketing budget. With all that in place, you'd think it'd be easy to make a good game, but often it isn't. In fact, what we're interested in today is what are the duds? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 of the worst AAA games of all time. Now, a quick disclaimer going forward. There's of course room for debate here if a game counts as AAA or not, and that's fine. That's what the comment section is for. We love seeing the discussions. Without any further ado, starting off at number 10, it's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. This game has a 4.5 user score and a 38 on Metacritic. It's bizarre. It's Harry Potter, but Gears of War. Or is it Gears of War, but Harry Potter? I don't know. You would definitely call it one of those things, though.
That's what the kids want, right? The Gear War, but with Harry Poplar.
Okay, President and Chief Operating Officer Grandpa. But the thing is, it's not even a good cover shooter. It's awkward, it's stiff to control, it's way too heavily scripted/automated, so there's like very, very little room for strategy. There's a few spells to choose from that are basically just different guns, but it's kind of just easier to use Stupefy and blitz through everything. The cover mechanics are terrible. Often you'll find yourself taking cover behind thin air, or your cover just won't do anything. At least it doesn't actually matter a whole lot, because the game is so easy that taking cover is kind of pointless.
Stupefy!
You won't escape this time. I don't know. But you keep casting, and I'll get us out of this.
There's a half-baked RPG mechanic where you can put points into stats and unlock new spells, but it's, like I said, not baked all the way. The game is so easy you can just ignore all of that, and it really doesn't seem to make a difference. There's also stealth missions, yes, and they're as bad as you would imagine. Enemies are, at the same time, too dumb to live while having X-ray vision and can spot you through walls. These parts of the game are the worst kinds of trial and error, and if you really want to torture yourself, there are some exclusive gameplay modes too. Really a smorgasbord of all the worst parts of 2010 games. Harry Potter as a cover shooter killing machine is a funny concept, but it doesn't work. At number 9 is Alone in the Dark from 2008, sitting at a 58 on Metacritic with a 4.6 user score. It was meant to be Atari Interactive's big step into the AAA market. It was going to be the next big franchise right beside Resident Evil, and they marketed this game hard. Big cover stories in gaming magazines, flashy commercials, a trailer that barely shows any actual gameplay. They did it all. It did not help that the game was immediately torn apart by critics for its numerous bugs and bizarre gameplay decisions. One thing I'll say is that usually people criticize the AAA space for its lack of innovation, but if anything, Alone in the Dark went too far in the other direction. Nothing about this game is what you would call traditional. It's got a weird inventory system, the melee combat is strange, and honestly, it's got surprisingly in-depth physics simulations. There's a lot of ambition for this game, but as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And oh ho ho, the road to hell is a dark and lonely one, so to speak. Alone in the Dark 2008 is a janky mess that feels like it could collapse in on itself at any moment. Most of the ambition feels pretty misplaced, like the healing system. You can spray different parts of your body that are injured. It's supposed to make the game feel more immersive, but all you can really do is laugh at the skin textures that are clearly just sitting on top of the jacket. Very, very, very goofy. The game takes itself very seriously, but it's funny, honestly. Every time I boot it up, I can't help but laugh that Max Payne himself, James McCaffrey, spouts some of the worst dialogue you've ever heard. While this actually pretty great orchestral score that makes no sense as to why it's there, it has no place in this mess, doesn't fit the feel, doesn't sound anything like this looks. Sounds very good, but it doesn't make sense. And I'm listing like the positives. In terms of the gameplay, it's miserable. Like, the best I could call it is a miserable failure. Like, it's saying like, there was so much ambition. It's just like putting a gold star on it. Like, you tried. Old meme from the era this game came from. You tried. At number 8 is APB, with a meta score that matches Alone in the Dark, 58, but a user score that's worse, 4.4. APB was a game that got a lot of hype. I remember people just being absolutely rabid for this. It was meant to be huge, made by Real Time Worlds, the guys who made Crackdown of all games. It was made up of former Rockstar Games guys, including the co-founder of the studio, David Jones. This was a massively multiplayer crime game. It was meant to be the ultimate GTA-style playground, but it's hard to really nail down a true style for it. It was barely a game. Looking back on it now, you'd assume it was some small developer thing, and you might be a little more forgiving based on that. But you shouldn't be. This had a $100 million budget. Now, like I said in the intro, we don't have a hard number, but that's the estimation. And it also had an EA publishing deal. To call it a small deal would be a big mistake. It was a big, big deal, many people are saying, and everyone who jumped into the pre-release beta had the exact same question. This is it? Of course, the devs quickly responded that they were just showing a fraction of what the game would end up being in the final release. But, no, they weren't. That was it. That interaction should have gone as such. This is it? Question mark? This is it. Period. The game was lacking in content from the start. Barely, just a selection of random missions you'd get and replay endlessly in a few small zones. There really wasn't enough to keep people playing for even an afternoon, and it was meant to be an MMO. The only universally praised part of the game was its customization suite, which actually was really impressive for the time. And it seriously actually holds up today. You go back to this, in terms of the customization suite, man, lots of cool stuff here. Everything else, half-baked and undercooked. And it had a monthly fee. And number 7 is Redfall. Wowie! Redfall. When this game came out, I said something about how I thought the developers were probably not excited to make a live services game, and this is the result. And there was an article in Bloomberg not long after that confirmed this exact thing. This was a game nobody wanted, and the Arcane staff probably wanted it less than players did. Because I can remember a time thinking, oh, Arcane and vampires? Yeah, I'm there. You know why? Because that's a sound concept. An open world co-op shooter with the Arcane special sauce. But apparently by the time they were done developing this game, 75% of the Arcane Austin staff, the developers of this specific game, developers that had worked on illustrious titles such as Dishonored, Prey, etc., critically acclaimed, brilliant people. About 70% of their staff up and left because they didn't want to work on Redfall. And I'm not making that up, I'm quoting Bloomberg. And it shows. Like, Arcane was understaffed to make a games as a service game as it was. They started off with 100 employees, and losing that many out of 100 employees, even if you're hiring people to compensate, there's just too much to do. Like, there's a lot of areas in the game that look nice from far away, but they're lacking in detail. The combat, which, by the way, is Arcane's bread and frickin' butter, they are geniuses when it comes to making a certain kind of combat that works so great, and it's not there. It's neither satisfying or fun. And you can just see that the people involved with this didn't want to be involved with this. It's not the kind of game anybody who wanted to work at Arcane and had for years wanted to make, and it shows. And number 6 is Driver 3, or Drive 3R. Driver 3, 56 on Metacritic, 3.3 user score. May be hard to believe, but the PlayStation 1 era Driver series was actually a big deal. The first 2 Driver games, huge, sold millions of copies. They cemented the series as one of the biggest franchises on the PlayStation. That all came crashing down with Driv 3R, one of the most disastrously bad sequels of all time. The only reason why this game has a 56 on Metacritic is because AAAs are just graded on a curve separate from everything else. We would never give Driv 3R a 56. We would never contribute to that kind of an average. This game is so bad. Atari wanted it to be a GTA killer, so they marketed it like crazy, but like, it's Driv 3R. I bought this game because I wanted more Grand Theft Auto. Honestly, I couldn't get enough of that kind of game. I loved GTA 3, Vice City was great, that same year, San Andreas was awesome. I was ready for more. This was a promising new genre, and Driver had always been a great franchise. Sadly, it seems like it really went through a bad dev cycle too, so like, it was a ton of hard work and misery for nothing, because Driv 3R sucks. And number 5 is Lair, a highly anticipated game meant to be a PS3 launch title, but it got pushed back over a year, and much like the world, that year was not enough. I don't know why I brought that up. Developed by Factor 5 and published by Sony, this game was meant to demonstrate the power of the PS3 console, but instead, it just revealed the many limitations of the hardware. Yeah, we've all heard about the forced motion controls, but it can't be understated how misguided this was. And it's not that it was that hard to control, it's actually about the movements that called for precision. Everyone calls out these motion controls specifically, but the real issue is just the dull and outdated game design. You know, that old chestnut. There's just not much here that's interesting. The campaign's either dull or actively terrible on an alternating basis. And yeah, some of the backgrounds look nice for a PS3 game, but the frame rate it's up and down, let's say. It's a half-baked game from a developer people rightfully expected much better from. Factor 5 made the Star Wars Rogue Squadron games, so they clearly knew how to make a flying game, but Lair it ain't Rogue Squadron, let's just say. That's a very nice way of saying it too. It's much, much worse than Rogue Squadron. If this game had come out as a launch title, it probably would have gotten bad reviews, but at least it would have gotten swallowed up in the whole PS3 launch hype cycle. But delaying it and being like, we're gonna make sure that this one's good, and then not having anything to show for it, oof, it got eviscerated in the press. Yeah, we all can remember it. I don't think we would have if they just launched at launch, and it would have been terrible, to be fair, but it was terrible anyway. And number 4 is Medal of Honor Warfighter. Remember EA's desperate attempt to capture the Call of Duty audience? The original Medal of Honor games, up to Allied Assault, they're the classics. But when the team moved over to Activision to make the first Call of Duty, the series was just never quite the same. EA tried to revive the series in 2010 with the moderately successful Medal of Honor, but whatever gains they made with that game, they just completely ruined with 2012's Warfighter. It was a bug-riddled mess. It was hopelessly uninspired, it was dull. The story mode is mostly remembered for its grotesque Uncanny Valley crap. It can be best described as unremarkable. It felt quite sloppy, was not finished, to say the very least, didn't hold up to the middle-of-the-road Call of Duties even. And then there were a big string of random controversies that don't make sense to go into here because it took too long. It was just bad, and it didn't do well. And number 3 is Umbrella Corps with a 38 on Metacritic and a 2.4 user score. For a while, Capcom was in kind of a dark place. Before Resident Evil 7 revitalized the franchise, we were getting crap like Umbrella Corps, a team-based shooter set in the Resident Evil universe. I mean, it's not like they're not making bad multiplayer spin-offs to this day, but they're making really good games at the same time, so seriously, how many fans of the Resi franchise are just dying to play a first-person multiplayer shooter that vaguely resembles something from the series? You know, a series that's primarily a single-player horror experience. I mean, I guess it makes at least a little bit more sense than the Metal Gear Solid version. Wow, man, these companies have made some pretty weird decisions over the years. But honestly, like, it's a generic military shooter. A lot of the time, you really wouldn't be able to tell this is supposed to be a Resident Evil game. But that's hardly the worst thing about it. If it was incorrectly labeled, but a hell of a lot of fun, I don't know if it would have received the savaging that it did. But yeah, that's not how this went. Balance was a mess from the start. Melee weapons were really overpowered, and a team that relied on them would pretty much win every time.
This one's mine.
There was only 2 modes, the weirdly hardcore one life match, which is a 3-on-3 where if you died, you were out, and then the multi-mission mode, which is a lot like Capcom's recent Exo Primal, where you run through a series of short missions with different objectives, usually racing the enemy team to complete the objective first. There was single-player content, but it was pretty weak. It's basically a collection of multiplayer maps and an extended tutorial for the multiplayer stuff. The controls are not terrible, and there are some interesting ideas like a zombie jammer that can take out and cause zombies to swarm the enemy team, but it's otherwise a pretty lame shooter and does not have a lot of content. Not enough. After Resident Evil 6, the series really needed a win, but Umbrella Corps wasn't it. Thankfully, Capcom came to their senses and put out Resident Evil 7 a year after this, and honestly, they've been on the right track ever since. Even if there are lame multiplayer add-ons to these games, it's kind of whatever. Maybe they'll eventually get a multiplayer game right, and it'll come as a pack-in with one of these great single-player games that people actually want from them. And number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Maybe you don't think of Sega as one of the major publishers, but if you spent any time with this game, and beyond if you lived it, I don't know why you would. I certainly wouldn't go back to it. But Sega put a lot of money into this thing. It was meant to be a really massive adventure, a soft reboot of the entire Sonic franchise, and a celebration of Sonic's 15-year history in a game. I've talked about some games with bugs on this list before, but no matter how high the expectations were for this game, or how low, I don't know, maybe some people realized what it was ahead of time. But regardless of the expectations, they were not met. This was probably one of the buggiest games that has ever been released to a mass audience in the way that this game has. The controls are so bad, especially in the Mach speed sections. Nothing about this is fun. The Havoc physics bug out constantly, and everything looks cheap as hell. I mean, probably the worst thing is that the Sonic gameplay is the best thing in the game, and it's bad. Like, there's areas of it that are all right, but it's generally pretty bad. It's Sonic Adventure, but, like, worse. But Shadow and Silver, they're so much worse. Silver has a gameplay gimmick of using telekinesis, and it ain't good. It's frankly shocking that this game was released in the state it was. It's very funny. Like, it's provided a ton of very, very good content for the internet. What's interesting is that there are people going back and quote-unquote fixing this game. Like, there's a lot of fan remakes that make the game not horrifyingly bad, but the actual game itself is. It deserves the 46 Metacritic, and frankly, it deserves a lower user score than 5.3. I think a lot of people just enjoy how bad it is, and that's why.
It's no use! Tail! It's no use! This will end it! No!
And at number 1, it's Babylon's Fall with a 41 Metacritic and a 2.1 user score. I think the user score is a little more accurate for this one. Square Enix and Platinum Games combined forces, and that sounds like it would be a good thing because they did that once before and we got Nier Automata. Babylon's Fall, is not a Nier Automata level game. And a lot of the time, games get like a big debate, like, here's the redeeming qualities of this game. It's not that it should be savaged in the way that all of you are savaging it. And this one did not. Babylon Fall came out, a bunch of people said it was bad, and a bunch of other people went, yup. It sold really, really bad too. Only about 1,000 players had it on Steam, and only about 3,000 copies sold in Japan the first week. It was declared dead almost immediately, and it wasn't long before it was shut down. It took less than a year, came out in early access February 28, 2022, and the servers completely closed February 27th the following year. So not a full year. 1 day shot. It was meant to be the first salvo in a big games as a service push from Square, but if that's the case, they should have tried a lot harder because this game was pathetic. It was subpar in terms of graphics, environments were samey and dull, and the presentation was bad, the gameplay was repetitive and also bad, and that's a running theme with games as a service. It seems like they're trying to play a game of chicken with the consumer to see what they can get away with. The idea is that they're going to constantly update the game to keep everybody engaged and having fun, but it seems like devs forget about the engagement and the fun. These games are just bare bones, they're repetitive and usually really dull, but they do have a lot of microtransactions. And then when everybody's like, I don't really like this game and I don't want to buy anything that is in it, the whole constant update part of the strategy just kind of goes away. And that's assuming that they were even going to update it in the first place. I don't know. I don't think that it really would have mattered with this game. The writing was on the wall day one. Nobody bought it. Fans didn't want it, and casual players just didn't care. And it wasn't just that it was forgettable. It was terrible. It was filled with confusing systems and repetitive, boring gameplay. Just a bad game all around. You have to wonder if Platinum Games kind of had a contractual obligation to it that put it in the same situation as Arcane Austin and Redfall. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.